only place for everything Vikings. 6, 1, 2, Vikings.
Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of 612 Vikings. We are going to be talking about free agency news, and before we get to that, I want to introduce you guys, or I guess reintroduce you to Drew. We got Drew on my right here, and then we got a new guest as well. We have Nick, aka Grizzy. Nick, if you want to introduce yourself, go ahead for the people that don't know you.
Hi, I'm Nick, better known as Grizzy. Vikings fan, of course. You know, you can't have no non-Vikings fans on here. I'm excited to be here on the 612 Vikings podcast, and I'm ready to talk some free agency.
All right. So there's a lot that has happened today in the free agency world. You know, just in general for the whole NFL and then for the Vikings as well. They kind of been a little bit more active than years past. The first signing was Jonathan Greenard from the Texans. He's an edge rusher that kind of led into Vikings fans thinking, you know, is Danielle Hunter staying? Is he leaving? More leaving than staying. But what do you guys think on this Greenard signing for the Vikings? We'll start with Drew.
So I was talking about it with some other people in the past couple of hours, and seems like to me with this edge rusher signing, it kind of reminds me of when Green Bay signed Zadarius Smith back in 2019. He was kind of like that underrated, not a big name guy. He was kind of a guy that flew under the radar for a bit. Was really efficient when he was out on the field, and when he wasn't on the field, obviously he wasn't really doing much. But he finally got his true shot to be the guy in Green Bay, and now he's going to have his shot to be the guy in Minnesota. So I'm hoping that this is what we can kind of get out of him to be that guy, you know, to be that one-for-one replacement for Danielle Hunter, and you know, have him be that guy for the next few seasons.
Okay. Nick, what do you know about Jonathan Greenard, and what does he bring to the Vikings?
Dustin, like I was telling you earlier, it seems Danielle Hunter is linked to the 49ers, and it seems like Danielle Hunter will be hitting free agency, and like I said, the Danielle Hunter sweepstakes will start. Seems like he is linked to the 49ers. Dustin likes to tell me I'm a huge 49ers fan. That's not the case. That is not the case, but I think Danielle Hunter would be a great fit for the 49ers if he does end up if he does end up leaving the Vikings. I think the 49ers would be his best bet, matching him up with Nick Bosa, because you got to admit that Chase Young's going to be gone. I'd love to keep Danielle Hunter. He was an absolute monster last year, but you can't keep everybody forever. So I think Greenard was a great pickup if we're going to let Danielle Hunter go.
Yeah, and there's also been rumors of Danielle Hunter going to the Bears as well, which I would definitely hate seeing. I mean, the Lions, they picked up Marcus Davenport, which, hey, we don't have to see him ever play because, I mean, we don't know that. He could probably play all 17 games and say F you to the Vikings and just dominate us, I guess. So other than that, we have another edge rusher that the Vikings signed in Andrew Van Ginkel from the Miami Dolphins. I don't know too much about him other than he was a former Wisconsin Badger. But other than that, what do you kind of like about Van Ginkel, Drew?
Well, Andrew Van Ginkel, we got our little logo on offense and TJ Hawkinson, and now we got one on our defense. He's got the long golden locks, which is something Vikings fans love to see. But he's, like I said, he's kind of like Renard. He's kind of that rotation guy back in Miami, because once they trade for Bradley Chubb, his job kind of dwindled a little bit. So now he's going to Minnesota to kind of get that starting role back after Miami traded for Bradley Chubb, and they also had Jalen Phillips, he might be back by the start of the season next year. Who knows? Because I know he's got a torn Achilles. And that happened kind of towards the end of the year. But like I said, he was coming off a very efficient season, posted a 91.1 PFF grade. I think this could be a low risk, high reward signing for him as well.
Okay, Nick, what do you know about Andrew Van Ginkel?
Honestly, nothing, Dustin. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't know much about him. I've been kind of trying to keep up with guys I want the Vikings to get, and I didn't even think about – I honestly did not know this guy was going to be a free agent until today. Some NFL fan I am. But I heard, good things about him. Like Drew said, fantasizing about him having long blonde hair. I rock with that. I love it. I love the flow coming out of the back of the helmet. I think he's going to look good in purple. And one thing is, I think we're going to have a pretty deadly edge duo. You know, we got
Yeah.
Van Ginkel now. We have Grenard, and you still can't forget we have DJ Wanham. And hypothetically, I know it's a long shot now, but if we got Danielle Hunter back, the defense would be looking pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
before I
even
turn
if
it
he
back
keeps
over
these
to,
guys as
sorry, Dustin, but I was gonna say real quick, Andrew Van Ginkel before he went to Wisconsin, he was actually a USD player, and they transferred over to Wisconsin, so he's a local kid, which is something we'll get into a little bit later on as well. But that's something to also take note in with the Van Ginkel signing as well.
yeah. It almost seems like Kwesi is kind of signing offensive player and a defensive player that both look like Vikings. You got TJ Hawkinson looking like the logo, and then you have Van Ginkel as well. Watch, Van Ginkel's probably gonna buzz cut his hair now and just say "f you." You guys don't think that, but no, Kwesi went 3 for 3 on free agents on the defensive side of the ball today, and they also got the former Minnesota Gopher Blake Cashman. Now, I didn't really know too much about him. I didn't know he was as good of a player as he was. I guess he had like an 83.7 PFF grade. Now, I don't know if a lot of you really pay attention to the PFF grades. Some of you like him, some of you don't, but I just thought he was a good depth signing, if anything. But a lot of people were kind of going against that and saying, no, for the money that he's getting, and it's true that he is a starting linebacker for this team alongside Ivan Pace. And I really do like that. I would like to see Brian Asamoah get some reps, though, too. It feels like we kind of wasted. I don't know if it's wasting, but just wasn't used at all last year besides special teams. And it kind of sucked because he had a really good rookie year as well. So, Drew, well, what do you think about the Blake Cashman signing?
Well, I don't know if the Brian Osmo thing will be a waste because, Brian Flores likes to deliver a lot of uh, versatile fronts. So you can run the 4-3 and the 3-4. So when they run those 4-3 fronts, Osmo can still be on the field. But again, Blake Cashman, and I remember when he was first drafted, he was drafted by the Jets in the fifth round, and I believe it was in 2020 or 2019. I know we were hoping to get him, and then the Jets snagged him right before we could. We ended up taking Cam Smith, who unfortunately retired with a heart issue later on. But Blake Cashman, I think this is going to be a good signing as well. He's a good guy in pass coverage. He can, he's going to be that nice Eric Kendricks replacement, hopefully, for the next few seasons as well.
Okay. Nick, do you know anything about Blake Cashman?
I'm not gonna lie, Dustin. I got my middle linebacker on the Vikings that I love. It's gonna be nice to see that Marcus Davenport finally left. So now Ivan Pace Jr. could finally have the number 0, and then we're gonna unlock the true potential of Ivan Pace. You got to look good to play good, and him with that number 0 is gonna look good. He's gonna play good alongside of Cashman. I think it's a good signing, like you said. If you really get down to it, the PFF grades and stuff, he does look like a good linebacker. And if any of you know off the top of your head, does anyone know how old he is?
I believe he's about 26, 27.
And he's still a young player. I know Ivan Pace obviously is, younger than that, but still, I think they could be a pretty good linebacker duo. And safe to say, the Vikings are doing just fine without, having Eric Kendricks.
Yeah. It's kind of a blessing in disguise too. Kind of moving on. I think the Vikings always know when to move on from certain players like Dalvin Cook, Eric Kendricks, Kyle Rudolph. Maybe it will be a Kirk Cousins that we kind of look back in a couple of years and say, you know what, that was the right time to move on from Kirk. But just kind of spur the moment. It kind of sucks. It really does. And I know that was the first bullet point to this, but that's I don't want to say one of the first dominoes to fall for the Vikings, but it definitely creates I don't want to say a problem, but a bigger situation than what we're used to. Where we're looking for a quarterback, and I guess there's reports of the Vikings looking at Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, all these other quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo was a new name today that got dropped. So Kirk Cousins to Atlanta 4 years. I don't know that the Vikings would even offer or even think about offering that. I think they only offered like 1 year to him, 1 or 2 years. So to go 4 years, being 35, 36 years old. Do you have the contract details with you, Drew, with Kirk Cousins to Atlanta?
Yeah, so Kirk Cousins goes to Atlanta on $180 million over 4 seasons, with $100 million of that guaranteed. First 2 years will be guaranteed. $90 million over the first 2 seasons in 2024 and 2025, and then there's a $10 million injury bonus as long as he stays healthy, which he should, play those games as long as he plays a certain amount of games, which is pretty low. So he'll hit that $100 million pretty easily. But yeah, I don't know if he'll stay the whole 4 seasons with them. I'm thinking this is more
Yeah.
like a 3 year deal, and the fourth is just kind of like a dummy year. But we'll see how it all goes in Atlanta. And, as the Vikings, we wish him the best of luck, and we move on to a new era.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this is like it almost doesn't even feel real that he's leaving. Like it just feels like the weirdest goodbye to a player that I have ever like witnessed. Like I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. It feels like a fever dream. It just feels like a nightmare. Like I don't know, it just feels weird. But Nick, how do you feel about Kirk Cousins leaving the Minnesota Vikings to go to the Atlanta Falcons?
It does hurt, but I mean, also at the same time, hasn't Kirk Cousins only brought us to? I mean, he's only won us one playoff game, right? I mean, he's brought us to 3 playoff games in total, I think, because you have the Saints game, the 49ers game, and then the Giants game. He hasn't done much, postseason. You know, do I think we still could have gotten a Super Bowl with Kirk? Yes, I do. I still think he is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. Put him in the right system. Like, hypothetically, you put Kirk Cousins on the 49ers, that team's going to the Super Bowl. Me personally, I wanted to keep Kirk for at least a year or 2 years. Like I said, I wouldn't have given him more than 2 years, and then have him, not sit, but have a rookie sit behind him. Maybe a Drake May, a Jaden Daniels, even a JJ McCarthy. And just sit behind Kirk because like Kirk's one of those quarterbacks you want to sit behind and learn from.
Yeah,
I'm
for
sure
sure.
I'm sure Drew could back me up on that. I'm sure you could back me up on that. Kirk's a good
Mhm.
quarterback, and people forget that he was playing like an MVP before he got injured.
Yeah, for sure. As for the recording of this podcast, I'm just scrolling through Twitter, making sure that the Vikings aren't signing anybody else before this podcast ends. So that way we can get out, the most recent breaking news too. But I guess the most recent one right now is Aaron Jones. The Vikings have interest in the former Green Bay running back. I don't know how I feel about that. I'd be curious on what the contract would look like. I don't want to give him too much because I think me and Drew can agree on this that you don't really give running backs a huge second contract, maybe even a third. But I also don't want to speak for Drew, but I feel like that's something that we can both agree on. But what would it take to get someone like Aaron Jones on the Minnesota Vikings? What would a cap number look like?
If I had to guess, his market value is probably around that Tony Pollard to DeAndre Swift range. So I don't know if it would be for 3 seasons, but it'd probably be more in that like 2 years, $16 million. I'd probably say about $10 to $12 million of that is guaranteed. But that again, that's just a ventured guess. But this seems like that's kind of like the tier of running back he's kind of in right now. Is that Pollard to Swift range right now? 'Cause I couldn't see him getting Barkley money because Barkley still has a future. I can't see him getting anything else more than that or around that. So I'd say $8 million is a good range for him.
Do you think that Aaron Jones is someone that the Vikings should sign this free agency?
Well, I think you got to commit one way or another. So if you're gonna stick and pick, I would then look at a running back in the draft. But if you're wanting to go in, you're wanting to put all your chips in the middle and go all in there, I would say you kind of have to go with an Aaron Jones because then that's one less draft pick that you have to use on another player, in the draft when that time comes around. Because by the fourth round, it would be the next pick if they do trade up. Because assuming that you'd have to give up your first and second, Vikings wouldn't pick again until the fourth because the Hawkinson trade that took away their third round pick. So they do have two fourths left in that draft in this upcoming draft, but we'll kind of have to see how this plays out in the next couple of days and see what moves are in the future for the team.
Sure. Nick, how would you feel about a possible Aaron Jones to Minnesota signing?
Well, the Vikings do love doing business with division rivals. Getting Zadarius Smith from the Packers, getting T.J. Hawkinson from the Lions. It's nothing new. You know, doing business with the division rivals, and I think Aaron Jones would be a good fit in Minnesota behind a decent offensive line. Um, I did tell you guys though, I'm a big fan of Blake Corum. I'd love to see him in Minnesota purple, but like Drew said, if you can get a guy that's already proven like Aaron Jones, a guy who, no offense to Alexander Madison, that's going to be a better run game this year than it was last year. I would say, yeah, give Aaron Jones, I'd say 2 years maybe. And, if you're drafted and Blake Corum still sit there and one of those big running backs are still sitting there, maybe, pick up one of them too and have like a good 1-2 punch. But like I said, you pick up Aaron Jones, you're not going into the draft looking for a running back.
Yeah. Now this wasn't on my agenda for today, but what about a running back like AJ Dillon? Are you guys aboard that train or not aboard that train?
Again, I think a lot of it just comes down to what he's asking. I think that's how it is for me. If he's going to ask anything 8 million or more, I'm going to say no. If he's asking maybe 5 to 6, maybe I'm listening and maybe there's an offer there. But again, it's more just kind of knowing what he's worth and what he's asking. But if it's worth the price, then yeah.
Yeah, me personally, I would like to just kind of stick in the draft and get someone like a Braylon Allen that's pretty close to AJ Dillon, size wise, and just a really good running back that you can get in close to the early middle rounds. And just a young guy. He's what, 20, 21 years old, super young. And a lot of Vikings fans are aboard that train as well, trying to get someone like a Braylon Allen or just a running back in the draft in general. So, yeah, other than that, the Vikings have had a pretty busy day in free agency. It really hasn't officially started until Wednesday, and we already have 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 signings all on Monday. So we'll see what Tuesday, Wednesday, and the next couple of weeks bring. See what other free agents the Vikings sign. Whether we get a guy like Sam Darnold, Jimmy Garoppolo. We're still trying to figure out a quarterback, a running back. I think we need a kicker too, because our kicker's in free agency. So someone like a Nick Folk is still out there. I think he's like one of the only good ones left, unless I'm missing somebody. But other than that, that's all that we have for you guys today. Just a nice short and sweet episode, just under 20 minutes here. So thank you guys, Drew and Nick, for joining today. We'll have to get you guys on another time as well and talk some more free agents or closer to the draft as well. So, we will see you guys in another episode. Skol Vikes.
All right.